Do you see any of the real Diana in Meghan? Did
God,
you?
no.
Really?
No. Sorry.
Imagine tuning into live TV, expecting the usual political chatter, only for Piers Morgan to hold up a stack of glossy, never-before-seen photos of Meghan Markle.
I don't want to be doing another bloody segment on Meghan Markle at Harry, right?
And suddenly the entire world realizes the victim princess narrative might be the biggest performance of her career.
It was when all the racism claims turned out to be bull. The mental health claims were bull. All of it was bull. Designed to damage and attack the royal family, the monarchy, and all of it. And it made me puke.
Because let's be honest, Meghan has spent years selling the idea that she was a humble, struggling actress, sipping green juice and journaling about empowerment, when in reality, her pre-royal social calendar looked more like a billionaire networking tour sponsored by Soho House, private jets, and men whose names mysteriously never make it into her interviews.
Once a Soho House basic, always a Soho House basic bitch.
And the moment Piers flashed those images on screen, Meghan's carefully polished brand cracked like cheap glass. This wasn't a glitch. It was a full system meltdown.
Are there any fans of Meghan Markle in tonight? Oh, hang on. There is one lone hand has raised
Subversive.
Up here. Actually, that is one more than I expected, I have to be honest.
For someone who insists she has nothing to hide, Meghan manages to spend a suspicious amount of time hiding things. Deleted blogs, scrubbed photos, vanishing friends, conveniently revised timelines. And now, the one thing her PR team prayed would never hit mainstream TV just did.
It was planned from the beginning. She denied being interested in the royal family, which she totally was. I know someone who knows the ex-husband who said she had a vision board with Prince Harry on it.
The truth didn't slip out. It exploded. And the craziest part, Piers didn't even need dramatic music. The photos were messy enough, so buckle up, because if you thought Meghan's royal exit was chaotic, wait until you see what her pre-royal life really looked like. The parties, the power plays, the ghosting games, and the secrets she hoped would stay buried forever. And trust me, this is only the opening blow.
It makes them newsworthy. So you either then ignore what people are talking about and debating and having all the silly stuff about them.
The studio lights were barely warm when Piers Morgan leaned forward, lifted a set of glossy images, and sent the entire broadcast into instant meltdown. Viewers expecting a routine debate suddenly found themselves staring at photos that shattered Meghan Markle's polished narrative in one brutal swipe. Piers didn't shout, didn't smirk, didn't overplay it. He just held the pictures with that cold, deliberate calm that says, "I've been waiting for this moment." And the internet responded like a bomb went off. These weren't harmless snapshots from a forgotten party. They looked like pieces of a lifestyle Meghan never wanted the world to see. A lifestyle drenched in exclusivity, privilege, and access that didn't match the soft focus origin story she repeats in interviews. The atmosphere in the studio shifted instantly. Even his co-hosts stiffened, unsure whether they were witnessing journalism or a carefully timed strike.
And she's living the life she probably wanted all along.
Yes.
A life of unparalleled luxury and riches that she got by marrying a handsome British prince. She's living back in the state that she came from.
Social media erupted within seconds, hashtags forming faster than the producers could blink, while clips of the moment hit millions of views before the show even ended. And here's the twist. Piers didn't frame it as a witch hunt. He framed it as setting the record straight, a phrase that hit harder than any accusation. Because if these images were real, and if they connected to events she's never acknowledged, then the story Meghan curated so carefully wasn't just incomplete, it was potentially engineered. Yet as shocking as the pictures were, the real thunder was the question behind them. Who sent them to Piers, and why now? What made the leaked images so explosive wasn't just their existence, it was what they implied about Meghan's life before she stepped into royal headlines. These weren't casual snapshots pulled from an old phone. They appeared to capture her moving through a world far more exclusive, calculated, and connected than the grinding TV actress with rent-to-pay image she's repeated for years. In several frames, she wasn't tucked in a corner with castmates or girlfriends. She was positioned in circles filled with wealthy men, influential social players, and Soho House regulars who weren't known for inviting just anyone into their orbit. The lighting, the settings, the body language, everything hinted at familiarity, not chance. And that's what set the internet on fire. If Meghan truly lived modestly, if she truly struggled the way she portrays, then how did she gain access to a club so selective it allegedly denied even Hollywood's biggest names? How did she afford the outfits seen in those photos, or the trips, or the company she kept? These questions didn't emerge from gossip, they erupted from the visuals themselves. Visuals that contradicted nearly every talking point she sold to the public.
You know, this is what Meghan has been doing. She's a piece of Klingon, you know, like she clings to somebody who can get her there. So Meghan manages to befriend one person of a very popular group, and then that person introduces her to the others. And that because that she's being brought in by somebody they trust, she's welcomed in.
Even more suspicious, her legal team, famous for jumping into action over the smallest headline, stayed silent. No statement, no correction, no outrage, and silence, especially from someone who battles the press like it's a sport, sent a louder message than any denial could. But the real plot twist wasn't the content of the photos. It was the identity of the person who allegedly supplied them. Long before Meghan Markle became a global headline machine, she crossed paths with a man who would eventually turn into one of her loudest critics, Piers Morgan. Their connection didn't begin with hostility. In fact, Piers often described their first encounter as pleasant, even charming. They exchanged messages, shared drinks at a Kensington pub, and he genuinely believed a friendly rapport had formed. But that illusion shattered within 24 hours when Meghan abruptly cut him off, vanishing from his inbox without explanation. The timing was brutal. The very next evening, she was photographed dining at Soho House with Prince Harry, stepping into a world far more powerful than anything Piers could offer. That moment became the seed of a grudge that grew quietly until it eventually erupted on national television. Years later, Meghan's Oprah interview pushed the tension into overdrive, and Piers' harsh criticism of her claims ignited a media storm that ended with his departure from Good Morning Britain. Behind the scenes, reports surfaced that Meghan filed a direct complaint, a move he interpreted as a personal betrayal rather than a professional grievance. For Piers, the leaked images weren't just content, they were ammunition in a battle he never wanted but felt forced into, a battle where he believed he was fighting someone who had manipulated public sympathy while erasing inconvenient truths.
But 57,000 people complained to the television regulator, Ofcom, in the UK. A world record, I'm proud to say, complained about me for not believing Princess Pinocchio. And eventually my boss had said, can you just apologize to Meghan Markle or you're going to have to, maybe lose your job. I went, I'll take the job option, thanks, I'll leave. And I walked off into the sunset.
So when he revealed those photos on live TV, it didn't feel random. It felt like the culmination of years of resentment, rejection, and a deeply personal sense of being played. But even Piers wasn't the most intriguing force behind the leak. Someone closer to Meghan had even more motive. Long before Meghan married into royalty, one name kept appearing quietly in the background of her rise. Marcus Anderson, the impeccably connected global membership director of Soho House. While Meghan publicly framed their bond as a simple friendship, the patterns told a different story, one that raised eyebrows even among people familiar with the entertainment world's networking culture. Marcus wasn't just a companion, he seemed to function like a shadow guide, appearing in every city Meghan relocated to, from Toronto to London to Los Angeles, as if his career path conveniently aligned with hers at each critical moment. And with his position came access, not just the exclusive lounges and private parties, but the confidential archives, the guest lists, the behind-the-scenes photographs that never reached public eyes. For someone striving to cultivate a specific public identity, having a gatekeeper like Marcus wasn't just advantageous, it was transformative. Rumors circulated that he wasn't merely a friend but a strategist, someone who understood how powerful social environments could reposition an actress with modest fame into circles occupied by millionaires, influencers, and eventually royalty itself. The unsettling part, many of the leaked images Piers showcased appeared to come from settings only Marcus or someone in his proximity would have had access to. If true, that raised a darker implication. Had someone inside her most trusted circle finally decided to expose the truth she worked so hard to manage? And if Marcus wasn't the source, then someone with comparable access was playing a game far bigger than personal loyalty.
He knows, and everybody all around the world, that you would want to know. The very rich, the very connected. Anybody who is anybody would be in Marcus Anderson's little black book. And he's never betrayed a confidence. He's never made a slip.
As the leaked photos circulated, another thread of Meghan's past began resurfacing online. The long-whispered yacht rumors that had followed her for years, yet never fully broke into mainstream discussion. These stories didn't paint her as a desperate actress scraping for auditions, but as a woman moving through ultra-wealthy, invitation-only circles, where private yachts served as floating networking hubs for businessmen, social elites, and up-and-coming actresses looking for opportunities beyond Hollywood's traditional ladder. Several documentaries and writers, including Kirby Sommers, highlighted a pattern in which rising actresses were flown to exclusive events under the guise of hospitality, and Meghan's name frequently appeared around those discussions. While some viral photos claiming to show her on certain yachts were later identified as other women, enough timelines, locations, and anonymous accounts aligned closely enough to keep the speculation alive. And that's what fueled the public frenzy. The idea that Meghan's sudden access to elite travel, luxury vacations, and first-class experiences didn't match the modest lifestyle she's repeatedly marketed. If she truly struggled, how did she afford summers in Mediterranean hotspots? Who funded the trips? Why were some of the same men seen around her in those older images connected to yacht gatherings known for high-stakes social matchmaking? These weren't accusations pulled out of thin air. They were questions revived by the context of Piers's leaked photos. Questions that made Meghan's carefully shaped public narrative wobble.
And here we have Andrew, with whom looks like Marcus Anderson. This is in 2001 when Meghan Markle would have allegedly been on third year. Meghan Markle hardly spent any time at Northwestern University. According to people, she got started her yachting days and she never stopped really. I don't think any of her boyfriends do about it, but Meghan Markle was known as a hardcore yacht partying person, ready for anything.
And just when it seemed the speculation couldn't get any more intense, Prince Harry's own memoir unintentionally added fuel to the fire. When Prince Harry released Spare, he likely intended to present a vulnerable, intimate portrait of their love story, not hand critics a roadmap to the parts of Meghan's past she preferred to keep blurry. Yet that's exactly what happened. In several passages, Harry casually mentions that Meghan treated Soho House like a personal sanctuary, a place she relied on so heavily it almost functioned as a second home. He describes their early dates, private dinners, hidden corners where they met discreetly, and the staff who seemed unusually familiar with her routines. For most couples, these details would feel romantic, but for Meghan, they raised a glaring contradiction. She'd repeatedly insisted she barely used the club and only chose it for convenience. Yet Harry's recollections portrayed a woman deeply rooted in that world long before they met. That single inconsistency reignited every question surrounding her sudden leap from mid-level actress to global figure. Who funded her memberships? How did she gain such deep access to a club famous for rejecting even top-tier celebrities? Why were her social circles so polished, so affluent, so strategically connected? Readers found themselves noticing patterns Meghan never addressed, and Harry, unintentionally or not, revealed far more than he realized. His sincerity worked against her calculated image, creating a sharp contrast between the humble persona she promoted and the lifestyle hinted at within his pages.
Harry, who's that standing next to the Queen? Is that a servant? That's what Harry wrote in his book Spare. How stupid is this man that he actually believes it, or is it that he wanted to believe it?
And when critics connected those memoir details to the leaked photos Piers displayed, the narrative took an even sharper turn, because Meghan's loudest response to all of this was absolute deliberate silence. For a public figure who has built an entire brand around controlling her narrative, Meghan's reaction to the leaked images, or rather her complete lack of one, became the loudest alarm bell of all. This is the same woman who took tabloids to court over a private letter, who issued rapid-fire statements over misquotes, lighting choices, even podcast misunderstandings. Yet when photos emerged that allegedly contradicted the very story she has told the world for years, Meghan didn't release a denial, a clarification, or even the typical sources close to Meghan rebuttal. Instead, she vanished behind a wall of silence, so calculated it almost felt like confirmation. The public noticed instantly. If the photos were fake, why not call them out? If they were misrepresented, why not correct the record? Her team has never hesitated to challenge narratives far less damaging than this. So the sudden quiet created a vacuum that exploded with speculation. Analysts pointed out that responding might inadvertently authenticate the images, while others suggested the Sussex PR machine was overwhelmed, trying to decide whether the bigger risk was addressing the leaks or ignoring them. But ignoring them didn't neutralize anything. It magnified the mystery. Social media threads multiplied, commentators dissected every pixel, and the unanswered questions grew heavier. The silence became its own headline, its own controversy, its own symbol of a past not fully erased. And as more people scrutinized the inconsistencies, a deeper pattern of reinvention began to reveal itself, a pattern that made these leaks feel less like an isolated scandal and more like a recurring theme in Meghan's public evolution. The deeper the public dug into Meghan's history, the more a familiar pattern emerged, a pattern of selective storytelling, strategic reinvention, and carefully curated omissions that stretched far beyond a few leaked photos. Long before she stepped into royal life, Meghan had already rewritten herself multiple times, shedding old identities like skins whenever they no longer served her ambitions. Her early blog era vanished almost overnight, along with countless references to relationships, friendships, and lifestyle choices that clashed with her polished Duchess persona.
She'd been a Deal or No Deal girl. She was calling herself a model, and she was starring in a show Suits. She used to charge almost $30,000 per trip, which is why she was making good money. It wasn't on Suits, it was on her yachting trips.
Hollywood colleagues quietly noted how swiftly she distanced herself once new doors opened, while past boyfriends described abrupt endings that mirrored Piers Morgan's ghosting experience far too neatly. Even circles she once thrived in, fashion bloggers, wellness influencers, Toronto socialites, dissolved from her orbit without explanation. And each reinvention came with a new narrative crafted to replace the last, one centered on struggle, determination, and humble beginnings. But the cracks showed every time an old photo surfaced, every time a timeline shifted, every time her own words contradicted previous statements. The Soho House era, more than any other, refused to stay buried because it represented a version of Meghan that simply didn't fit the ordinary girl who fell in love with a prince storyline. The exclusivity, the glamour, the influential men, none of it aligned with the image she continues to promote. And that's why these leaks felt different. They weren't just embarrassing snapshots. They were reminders that Meghan's past isn't missing. It's been meticulously meticulously edited. And once edits start unraveling, the whole narrative risks collapsing. And as this latest wave of leaked photos, resurfaced connections, and inconvenient contradictions sweeps across the internet, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. Meghan Markle's past isn't haunting her because people are obsessed. It's haunting her because none of the reinventions ever fully erased the version of herself she hoped the world would forget. Every unanswered question, every silent denial, every fragment of an untold chapter only fuels more curiosity. And while Piers Morgan's on-air reveal may have cracked open the door, it's the patterns behind that door, the shifting stories, the vanished friends, the luxury access disguised as struggle that keep people watching, analyzing, and asking what else is still hidden. Whether Meghan ever addresses these leaks or continues relying on silence, the conversation isn't slowing down. In fact, it's only growing louder. And if you want to see exactly how deep this rabbit hole goes, especially when it comes to the tension inside her own family, then you need to binge the video where Meghan is exposed as Thomas Jr. blasts her on camera for abandoning their ailing father. It connects directly to everything we covered today and adds a layer of emotional fallout you won't believe. Watch it next for the full picture. This is Star Spotlight, where the truth gets brighter every time the stars try to hide it. Your story, their secrets, always under the spotlight.